Hi, my name is Owen Anandham, and this is my COVID-19 success story. So, I'm married now for 9 years. I have two beautiful kids, aged 7 and 3. I'm part of the management team at Imperial Logistics Mount Edgecombe in Durban. I was in a good space. I was cycling and I was keeping fit and doing stuff that I needed to do. I had just entered 34, and we had experienced major unrest in Durban, South Africa during that time. And we had not been at work for about a week. We were told to return to work because there was a lot of panic buying and there was a lot of people that needed food. So the demand for food was extremely high, and we had been working around the clock just to make sure that people out there had food on their table. 26th of July, I started experiencing body aches, and then straight after work I went to the doctors. I had 2 injections. Woke up the next day feeling good and energized after those injections. I returned to work. However, during the latter parts of the day, I started feeling those body pains had returned, and after work I went to the doctors. I got another 2 injections, and at this time I had told my in-laws that just keep the kids away from me because I didn't want them to get sick as well, because I could feel that I was getting sick. On the Wednesday, I could not get out of bed. I was in so much of pain. My mother-in-law, she had to feed me. Thursday the 29th, I remember my depot manager advising me that one of my staff had tested positive for COVID-19, and he suggested that I go and get tested as well. So I went, got tested that Thursday evening. Towards the latter parts of Thursday, I received my results and I had tested positive for COVID-19. Friday the 30th was just continuous body aches. I mean, these were not your normal body pains. These were uncontrollable body pains. My wife, from Thursday evening up until Friday morning, had massaged me from head to toe, but the pain just won't go away. My cough was uncontrollable. It was unbearable. And my wife tried feeding me, but to no avail. The food would just not go down. And she had made a call that I needed to go to the doctors, or to the hospital rather. And I jumped into the car, went to the hospital, went into trauma, waited some time. The guys checked me, the doctor came, he checked me. They gave me some drips, gave me some meds, and told me that I just gotta follow the isolation days and so on up until I'm feeling better. And they had sent me home, and that was it. Over the weekend, I believe that the drips administered to me at the hospital had sustained me. However, the body pains and the cough, and now I started hallucinating, was just uncontrollable, and my oxygen levels are starting to drop. Monday, early hours of the morning, it was the 2nd of August, because of my oxygen levels dropping, my wife had then made a call for me to go to the hospital again, and went straight into trauma. I waited there some time. They checked me, they did the necessary checks, sent me for x-rays. They had picked up that I had pneumonia, and the nurse there at that time told my wife that I had needed to be admitted immediately. However, the hospital that I was at did not have any space for me, and my wife was hit with devastation because despite me being on medical aid, she had now to go look for some place that has place for me. And the nurse had suggested the provincial hospital, and My wife had then made some calls to family and friends and to my workplace, advising them of our current situation. And she tried by all means to get me placed at hospitals, and everybody else tried. But this is the miracle that happened, is when the same nurse at this hospital told my wife that, you know what, just be patient, just give him some time. Because of my condition, they are trying to make arrangements or space for me and trying to get a bed available. And just like that, the bed became available and I was admitted. After admission, I don't remember much. My memory started coming back to me in stages, and I think it was the 6th of August. I remember being in ICU, and my doctor had recommended that I be put onto the CPAP mask, which was going to help me breathe and to improve my oxygen levels. At this time, I was not eating any solid foods. The doctor recommended that a nutritionist see me, and I remember an overflow of messages from my family, from my friends, my work colleagues, my church. Around the 9th of August, I was moved to high care COVID ward. And I think this is where I spent most of my time. Still being on the CPAP mask, not eating. I eventually started to develop mouth sores, which I was receiving treatment for. I mean, I didn't know, or I didn't realize how depressed I was up until I started looking back at pictures. And I mean, I'm a people's person, you know. People are the way of life, and not being able to speak to anybody and not being able to talk to anybody. Yes, I made friends with the nurses and the doctors and stuff, but there was still a void in me. And one of the things that really helped me was video calls. And I made video calls to almost everybody that was on my cell phone, and not a person refused my call. Everybody accepted my call, even though I couldn't speak. Sometimes there were sign languages and so on because of my cough and the mask. But people prayed for me, and I found this really helpful, that the video calls was some kind of a tool for me to communicate with people out there and receive the necessary prayer and comfort and that zest to say, what, you know what, we here for you as well. While still in high care, my situation had worsened. I was on diapers, I was urinating in a can, had to be given a bed bath, I couldn't even brush my teeth. I had the CPAP mask on 24/7. I had an uncontrollable cough that every time that I coughed, my saturations would decrease, and it was a nightmare. I couldn't even sleep because of the medical machines, the noises, and then people would get admitted and not make it, and then you'll hear of the nurses talking that undertakers were gonna come, you know, and do this and do that, and here I am just laying in that bed thinking, you know, what's next, or what's gonna happen. And, you know, everything just starts to run through your mind, your family, your friends, you know, you just start to question yourself, you start to question God in this. During this time, my wife and my 3-year-old baby had tested positive for COVID-19, and she didn't tell me anything until I was better, and I demanded so much from her and requested so much from her, not realizing the situation at home. And here's the thing, she never ever told me no, or there's something that she could not get me. And I also had a work colleague that had tested positive during the same time as me, and it was unfortunate that she had passed on. Around the 11th of August, I started eating. I remember having oats for breakfast. Man, it had to be the best feeling ever. I had to refrain from any spicy food, but I was happy that I had started eating something. On the 13th of August for me was my second miracle. Prior to me getting sick, I've been applying for a transfer to Johannesburg because my wife had already been there, and my depot manager had messaged me that one of the positions that I applied for had been approved, and he mentioned that this would be an additional motivation for me to get out of hospital, and I couldn't agree more. Around the 14th, 15th of August, I was still struggling with this cough. I could hardly speak without coughing. Every time that I coughed, my saturations level would decrease, and this would have a negative impact on the reports that the nurses had to do for the doctors. I remember my wife telling me that she had received a call from the doctor, and he advised her that there was not much that they could do for me any longer, because it was now up to me to make the change. And she also mentioned to me that I requested a prayer meeting in my honor, requesting for my family to get together and pray for me, because I knew the only thing that was going to heal me was prayer. Around the 17th and 18th of August, there was no major change with me. However, I remember there were still so many people praying for me. There were people fasting and just holding me up in prayer. And just like that, around the 19th and 20th of August is when I received my second COVID test results. And those came back negative. And I mean, boy, oh boy, that had to be the game changer, because the doctor then confirmed that I could be transferred to a non-COVID ward, which was surgical ICU. He even recommended that I be removed from the CPAP mask and onto the AVO mask, which was a much better mask. And I was just so grateful that I was being moved from the current ward into a new place and a new environment altogether. The day I saw my wife, I promise you guys, was the day my saturation levels were well above 90. For that time, I don't even think I needed assistance from the oxygen tank and so on, because I was just so glad to see her. After everything that we've been through, it was amazing. It was really, really amazing to see her. It was pretty unfortunate that I was heavily sedated and under medication, that we couldn't have proper conversations, because I would just fall asleep during those conversations. Around the 23rd, 24th of August, physio was doing a good job on me at that stage, and unfortunately I was not walking because I had lost just under 20 kilos at that stage, and there was no muscle, there was no movement, so I was unable to stand and walk. However, I had the privilege of working with Mr. Neil Varan himself, and he was awesome. His team was awesome. Everything that he did was a step-by-step process on me. We did lung exercises, we did breathing exercises, there was specialized massages that was done on me, and his step-by-step process was basically for me to learn and to master the art of breathing again without being lenient on the oxygen. And Big ups to him and his team for an excellent job on me. Around the 25th, 26th of August, I had made significant progress. From the Avo mask, I was then put onto the 60%, then onto the 40% mask, and thereafter just the nasal cania. And I think around the 27, 28, doctor was also very happy with the progress I made, and he recommended that I be moved from surgical ICU to surgical non-COVID ward. Man, I wish that I could have just been discharged from surgical ICU. They showed me so much of love. They showed me so much of care, personal care. I mean, they were just awesome. Yet another team, another ward that was awesome, went out of the way to do over and above whatever they needed to do on me, and the conversations that we would have, and it was just so overwhelming. And I just wish that I could have been discharged from there. Unfortunately, I had to start depending on my own strength, and things had to get back to normality. And that's the reason for me to be discharged from ICU, surgical ICU, and then into surgical non-COVID ward. Around the 29th and 30th of August, I had made massive progress. I mean, progress had become a middle name. I was flying high, and just when you think everything is going well, and then just like that, boom, I hit a roadblock, and I experienced 3 more difficulties. And these difficulties, I'm not going to get into the detail rather, but these, let me just say this, that these were between life and death situations. But yet again, for me, these were 3 additional miracles that I had experienced, and I'm still so grateful of my situation and where I was. On the 1st and 2nd of September marked exactly 1 month that I was in hospital, and doctor was happy with the progress I had made, and he had then authorized that I be discharged on the 2nd, and I was just so excited. There was no words to explain my excitement. I was so grateful. Everything that we have been through, everything that happened, and all those prayers had just come to pass, and here I was on the bed signing myself out and getting ready to go home to my family and everybody else that prayed for me. There was no words really. I was just so happy. I had signed myself out. The only concern was at that stage, medical aid had not yet authorized my oxygen machine, my oxygen concentrator, and I was just waiting for that. By week 2, I had made good progress. I started walking gradually, and I remember my wife placing chairs a few meters apart so that as I walked, I rested as well up until I got to my destination. I started going to the toilet. I started bathing on my own. Unfortunately, I was still reliant on the oxygen. The oxygen had basically become my second wife. I was so attached to it. I would watch that nobody would walk near the cania or the nasal cania or anything of that sort, because I just didn't want, I was just so dependent on this oxygen. By week 3, my wife had started removing a lot of my medication. She removed the antidepressant medication, she removed the sleeping medication. I mean, she was so good. I remember her telling me that I was surrounded with so much of people that loved me, and there was no need for that medication, and I couldn't agree more. My skin had taken a massive beating. My back had so much of pimples. My skin was dry and cracking. Under my feet had like excess skin or dead skin, if you want to call it. She had to go out and get me a treatment for my skin to have it renewed. Towards the end of week 3 was my first doctor's visit. I remember my wife had to carry the oxygen tank together with the wheelchair, put it in the car. She drove me to the hospital, pushed me all the way into the doctor's rooms, and after my doctor's visit, I remember him saying that, you know what, he was so happy with the progress I had made and that I was a miracle and God had given me a second chance at life. He then recommended that I be put on rehabilitation to make me stronger, and he then booked me off up until the 31st of December 2021. By week 4 and 5, I was now no longer using the oxygen for steady periods of time during the day. There was still a requirement for me to use it at night, and I now had been to rehabilitation. I met with Mr. Neil Varan and his team once again. Man, were they happy to see me. All the time, all the energy that they invested in me had been standing right in front of them. And I was ready for my second phase. Rehabilitation was going well. Whatever exercises I did at the rehabilitation center, I had to do it at home as well to help me speed up the recovery and improve it. My diet, my entire eating pattern had changed. There was a requirement for more protein and more nutrition because of the amount of muscle that I had lost. By week 6 and 7, I was totally out of the oxygen. Man, I was so happy. I think the only downer was my inability to run and to walk fast at this stage, but I knew that I was making progress and I knew that it was going to take time. And here I am, a few months later, speaking to you all about my million little miracles. So to close, I would like to advise all those watching this video, prayer works. It's because of prayer I am here today. Life is so special. Make the most of every moment. Be good. Yes, we are not perfect and we get upset, but we need to learn to appreciate the little things in life. Enjoy life. You want to call someone, give them that call. You want to visit somebody, go visit them. Wake up early. Enjoy the sunrise or sunset. The best is unplanned road trips. And let's not leave things for later. If we are going to leave it to later may be too late. Rest. Now, I don't want to contradict myself when I say rest. I'm not saying be lazy. I'm just saying know your body. Sometimes you just have to pick up that handbrakes and rest. We all want to give our 110% at work so that we can grow. And so did I. But little did I realize that my body had other plans. If I had just listened to my body and rested and accepted the fact that I was sick and not went to work, the situation would have been much more different. To my wife that never gave up on me, I just want to tell you thank you for everything that you have done for me. And I personally believe that there is nothing that I could ever do to repay you. You held our own together, and I will forever be so grateful to you. A special thank you to my immediate family, my extended family, my friends, my work colleagues, my church, my pastors, to all staff at Life Mount Edgecombe Hospital, to Neil Varan and his physio team. A special thank you to my doctors, Dr. Lalu and partners, to Dr. Amram, and a special thank you to Dr. Mullah, and a very special thank you to Clinton Wayne Pillay for making this video possible, and finally to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank you. Stay safe, guys.